Hey guys, I'm Janet on occasion, and today we are looking at patch notes. As you can see them on the screen. There we go. It's hard to know where I'm pointing because the camera and the screen are in the same place. I can't just point to it. Also, the perspective swapped because I'm over here and the content's over there. It's behind me, which isn't how this works because actually the monitor's in front of me, otherwise I couldn't read it. Unless I had a mirror in front of me. I should try that one day. I'm not going to do that though. So patch notes. We have patch notes for the Twisted and the Twilight. So CA have released a little video, I think, to talk about some of them. I haven't bothered to watch that. But that might be nice for just a concise overview, is what I'm getting at. I'm going to be going through every single patch note rather than the highlights, right? So if you just want to know an overview, then maybe just go to Total War's official channel and check it out. Otherwise, stick around and you might learn something, or perhaps too much, because there's a lot of patch notes and more to come. This isn't even unit balancing. It's some Lord tweaks, but it's basically campaign stuff. If you want like a full list of unit balancing, you know, +2 MA, ±1 MD, all that lark, that's apparently going to take some more time because it seems like they've changed every goddamn unit. It's apparently going to be like a 10-part HBO miniseries when that finally happens, so hopefully it'll be before release, but they can't even promise that because there are so many changes that they need to list for the blog, which is insane. It sounds like there's more change than there have ever been, so yeah, that's insane, right? That's nuts. So anyway, let's go over the patch notes. So I hope you don't mind me sort of being a bit rambly, but if you're here for the long haul, so, you know, it's that sort of day, right? Let's have a chat. I've got my coffee with me, so make sure you have a cuppa. Maybe stick the kettle on now. I'll wait. I won't really. You should pause it. So, English. That's a good start. That's a good start. So, Total War Warhammer II, the Asrai Resurgent update, which is a cool name for it. I mean, Wood Elf Rework does it just as well, but the Asrai Resurgent update sounds rather fun. So, the automatic update arrives alongside the Twisted and the Twilight Lord packs, bringing with it many content revisions, balances, bug fixes, and quality of life improvements. True. If you guys have been watching the early access content, you can see there's a lot of stuff that I've been, you know, sort of cooing over. So the most impactful suite of changes applies to the Wood Elves, who've received a comprehensive overhaul to the way they play, and a willowy trunkload, nice, of new mechanics and features to boot. We think these changes will improve their gameplay, no end, and you can read them in detail below, or I can do that for you. That's the beauty of having people like me. So you're welcome. Also, you might notice I'm quite tired today. My voice is sort of had it. I've been up late recording, so this is actually 4 in the afternoon, and I pretty much only just got up. So I was busy last night. Got a lot of Drycha campaign recorded. Anyway, the most impactful suite of changes, blah blah blah. Also, 3 other notable changes players have been asking for: new Chaos Invasion front-end setting. So it's a difficulty slider for the Chaos Invasion, which is awesome. You can now set the difficulty level of the Chaos Invasion in Mortal Empires via a drop-down next to the difficulty settings on the campaign select screen. This determines the scale of the invasion, which is very cool. I really love that as a thing. I'm as yet to see any invasion, because it was bugged for me for the first press build that we received, but then it got fixed, and I'm as yet to actually encounter one, but I'm really excited because I put it on Legendary and it's going to be horrible and it's going to crush me. So damage and value tracking for units, again, a really big thing. This one, it's impossible to tell when you've got like single models dueling, you know, with a bunch of infantry around or whatever. It's hard to know who's doing the damage because at the end of a battle, you know, at the end of that fight, it's just going to be like maybe 1 kill, but that could be a Star Dragon, right? So it's impossible to tell really who did the work, whether it's, you know, your halberds or your, I don't know, Shaggoth or something. So damage value tracking, really, really useful in this game. And it's finally in. So damage value tracks raw damage dealt to the unit, by the unit to other units. It also tracks the damage value. So it's the same value that's used for like free-for-alls, you know, the points you get for people. So it's the value of the unit. So it's the damage, you know, well, they've got the maths here. So for example, if a unit worth 1,000 gold with 10,000 health, you will gain 500 value if you deal 5,000 damage to it. So you get the points value for the percent of the damage you've done to that unit. This is intended to provide feedback on the performance of units that focus on taking out expensive and powerful targets. like a star dragon. Knockdown and bracing changes. This is also really nice. I have noticed it to some degree, but it's quite hard to notice when you're in the thick of battle, because it's just like, oh, little old, you know, Thorgrim or something. Characters will are generally now much sturdier on their feet. Some are notably sturdy characters. Ungrim, he can brace now too, are now almost impossible to knock down. So if you've got like a melee fighter, they're going to behave like one. They're not going to get knocked over like some piddly spellcaster. So I like that it's scaled, you know, so you've got the spellcasters still get knocked over a lot, because they're not big, you know, sort of stonking lads. Whereas, you know, someone like Ungrim is, you know, someone like Grimgor is, so they're not going to get knocked about so much, which is good. Also, the fact they can brace, it means if they're not moving, they are less likely to get knocked over. So that's something to consider. If you've got them like charging someone, and they're charging you back, you will get knocked over more likely, because, you know, you're not braced. So it's the same with spearmen and things, by the way. If you brace, then you get that bonus charge defense, so you won't take the damage from the charge. But if you're moving, you will take that damage, so be wary of that. If you've got spearmen chasing cavalry, then you won't be able to sort of defend them. Sometimes it's nice to keep pressure on the cavalry though, so that's your decision to make. I'm not your dad. Anyway, on with the show. Indeed, that is my sentiments exactly. Come on, Janet, hurry up. So, Wood Elves update. Summary: the Wood Elf campaign has been completely overhauled, with almost every aspect of the faction changed in some way. Amber is no longer a recruitment It's no longer a requirement for recruitment or building, only for a specific subset of brand new technologies. So that is great. It gives you the variety back in a way that's interesting in the new campaigns, because they encourage the use of certain units in a big way for the new campaigns that have been added, which means that you end up with less variety, but you're rewarded for it rather than punished for trying variety, which is... it feels better. It feels much better to play. I like that. So the choice is yours, which I like. Amber is no longer gained from occupying settlements. It is now a rare reward from performing special rituals tied to magical forest settlements. Magical forest settlements? Is it going to say, there's a bunch of magical forest settlements now? It doesn't. Oh, in new regions. You'd think they'd do that first, but anyway. Campaign progress is now tracked by a system called Forest Health. Each magical forest has its own health level, which increases over time as the player defends the borders of the forest. Wood Elves can teleport between magical forests and receive special narrative encounters. Love these, by the way. Please have more narrative encounters. They're so good. They are fantastic. It really adds a lot of like roleplay elements to it. It makes your faction feel alive. It characterizes your faction in a way that doesn't often happen with a lot of factions. You know, the faction that's basically surface level, and that's it. That's all the detail you get. Okay, like, you know, it could be as simple as, oh, the Dark Elves are wearing dark colours, and they keep screaming, blood for Cain, so they're probably evil. Is that it? Is that all the characterization we're getting? But with Wood Elves, yeah, they feel more like a full faction, because you're getting little information about, you know, how they live and their motivations and things. So I love that. Need more of that. Definitely need that, like, just crammed into every goddamn campaign. We need a bunch of narrative encounters. They're fantastic. So there are 2 new minor mechanics themed around tree spirits, aspect unit upgrades, and spite character traits. So these are really fun. You would have seen them in my Drycha campaign. The tree spirit stuff. So aspect unit upgrades you can change on the fly, so you can give them like extra armor piercing at the cost of speed, or extra bonus versus infantry at the cost of physical resist, or like whatever. I don't know if those are exactly what it is, but it's that kind of thing. Little trade-offs to sort of more specialize your dryads or treekin or treemen. Really good, really cool, because you can do it on the fly, which is amazing. So if you suddenly like change who you're battling, you get to sort of be clever and change their loadout, as it was. So you feel rewarded for, you know, changing things like that to sort of prepare for the for the battle you're about to take part in. It's great. Also, spite character traits. These are just a bunch of really cool character traits that your sort of lords and heroes have. Specifically, ancient treemen and branch wraiths. They get their own unique traits, which are really good. There's some really fun ones. Really cool abilities, so that's really good. Technologies, building skills, and followers and events and traits have all been updated. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more variety for all of that stuff, which is really good. New regions. Every Wood Elf major settlement is now part of a magical forest. There are 8 such forests in Mortal Empires and 4 in the Eye of the Vortex campaign, alongside the 4 existing magical forests. The 4 existing ones you almost couldn't really tell all that well. They weren't much special about them. Athaloran, Gayan Vale, Heart of the Jungle, and Lorelorn Forest. 4 new settlements have been added to the Mortal Empires, and 2 to the Eye of the Vortex. So Mortal Empires, you've got Griffinwood, which is where Drycha starts. If you watch the Drycha campaign, then yep, you'll know it intimately. Mortal Empires only, because of course it's in the middle of the Empire, so, you know. This gloomy forest is found within the Empire in Ostermark. Then there's the Forest of Gloom, Mortal Empires only again. The forest goblin-infested region is found just to the west of Karazakarak, which is where the dwarfs start. Sorry, not the dwarfs. I suppose it's actually Karazakarak now. So they've changed all the naming conventions recently, and I still call Thorgrim's faction the dwarfs, when no, it's Karazakarak now, isn't it? But anyway, it's where they start. It's where Thorgrim starts, and Grombrindal. The Sacred Pools, that's in both campaigns. These shimmering pools are in central Lustria and are defended by blessed lizardmen guardians. So I really like this. Sacred Pools do have a lot of sort of lore with the lizardman thing. It's a very magical place. So the idea that the Wood Elves would be sort of interested in it, I think is quite cool. The fact that there is like just a natural thing, is sort of a natural occurrence, the sort of the build-up of magic and everything there, that sort of makes it one of these sort of mystical, magical forests. I think that's really cool. So that's nice. And ties it to a new part of the world, which is great. And the Witchwood, which is in both campaigns. This isolated forest is located in the mountains of Nagarond, and this is where the Sisters of Twilight begin their campaign. So very, very cool. New mechanics, forest health and rituals of rebirth. Each of the magical forests has its own forest health. The health of the forest can be increased over time, primarily by making sure its ancient heathland. I've been calling it Hearthland, mostly to wind people up, by the way. It's been really fun. The amount of comments I've got going, "Ree! There's an R in it! Ah!" Like it matters. Anyway, if you've been one of those people going, "Ree!" then, yeah. Lol. Heathland border regions are kept secure and free of enemies, either by raising them, owning them, or ensuring they are held by allies. Important coffee. So yeah, that's really fun mechanic. It sort of rewards you for anything that rewards you for allies. I think is brilliant. That is something that is sort of the game doesn't do very well usually. There's very few mechanics that sort of go, yeah, be friends with people, because that's actually useful. It's usually a hindrance, because if your allies get attacked, you get dragged into a war that you didn't necessarily want to be in, and it's annoying. Or you get called a git if your allies fight each other, and you have to take sides. Then suddenly everyone hates you. It sucks. It's an annoying thing usually. So something to incentivize that, I think, is great, because it's a part of the game that just sort of it has no incentive. So that's wonderful. So making a mechanic that already exists have a point to it is always wonderful. So that I really like. So we're going to see a lot more allies, hopefully. Not with my Drycha campaign, because she's a vindictive little tree girl, so she hates everybody. So I haven't been getting on with people. But the idea of just having allies, and that's the same as owning settlement, is really nice. I really like that. It means you can even get team-ups to fight, your enemies in common that are the other neighbouring places that you need to take over. So anyway, as the forest health recovers, it will provide increasingly potent campaign bonuses. Each forest provides its own set of effects, which is really nice. It's really good, because they're always sort of nice thematic things about the region. So which one's it called again? The Griffinwood, that's the one. The Griffinwood gives a lot of bonuses to things like vampiric corruption, attrition resistance, right? So you don't get vampiric attrition anymore, which is really good, because you're right near Sylvania. So there's certain things that just sort of apply to the regions. They give you little local benefits, so you have to really earn them. But it means that once you have, then you can really sort of take ownership of that area, and you don't have to be so worried about it. It really negates a lot of the difficulty in that region. They've been very clever about the sort of bonuses that they've granted, so I really like it. I really like it for sure. So Athaloran requires substantially more health to heal than other forests, but the rate can be improved by healing other forests across the world. So this is really fun. So how Athaloran works, the Oak of Ages, that's the one. Sorry guys, like I said, I just got up. So the Oak of Ages is really clever. So it basically will, its forest health will go down. Just sort of like, that'll just be a background like negative debuff for its forest health. And that is bigger the more forest health you have. And so you need more and more other forests sort of feeding into it in order to overcome the debuffs, in order to get those buffs from that tree, from the Oak of Ages up and up and up until you can do the ritual, which is really cool. So it sort of encourages you to, really take everywhere, which is nice. It means you have to go from continent to continent, so it increases the variety you're going to experience, which is really good. So I like that. And also because it's ticking up, if you happen to sort of blitz through a bunch of them, there's still incentive to explore more, which I really like. So it's really good. That's that then. Once enough forest health has been accumulated, a Ritual of Rebirth can be performed. So once you hit your maximum, most trees it's 100, sometimes 200. Oak of Ages is 500, I think. Shortly after starting the ritual, enemy armies, themed to each forest, that's an important bit, they are all themed, so they're all very thematic. So the Forest of Gloom, for instance, the Forest Goblin one, you get attacked by a bunch of goblins and like a bunch of spider units and things, which is really fun. So it feels like, yeah, I am a part of this world, rather than it just spawning random enemies, right? That's really fun. So they'll appear and attempt to disrupt the ritual. Yay! Also, it means it's not like the Vortex campaign where it's just the same stacks of like Chaos and Skaven, right? It's very in keeping with the place that you're fighting in, which I think is great. So unlike similar previous invasions, the player will receive advanced warning about the location of any army spawns and can even send an army to interrupt and ambush the foe before they are ready. So this is a really good system as well, so it'll take a few turns for that army to sort of gain its full strength, but it'll just be a little glyph on the campaign map. You stand on it, it triggers an event, you can choose to, attack them. And if you, get there before it spawns the actual army, then it's always going to be an ambush battle. So you hit the glyph, you land on it, doesn't matter what stance you're in either, which is interesting. So you can't even march stance there to like double time it. So you can start an ambush, but you'll be tired because you marched it, which is quite cool. I like that because it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. Do I want to really just book it and know that I'll be at a disadvantage, but it means we can still get the ambush? Is one disadvantage worth the advantage we're gaining? So that's fun. I love it. I think that's really cool. So yeah, and it'll trigger an ambush battle, which is really great. But they'll when you're doing a ritual, there'll be a few of them. But you get these events sometimes just randomly while you're sort of developing originally. So like as soon as you take over the forest, you'll get the odd one spawning in the next couple turns just to be like, oh, someone's angry, you've moved in, which is fun. It's really good. It's a really nice way to sort of tie you to the land, tie you to the area, and really just like make it feel like a living, breathing world. It's fantastic. More roleplay stuff is great. So, completing a Ritual of Rebirth grants following rewards. A forest's health can no longer be reduced. A special settlement specific landmark with a potent garrison and unique faction-wide regional effects is unlocked. So, this I really love as well, because you tend to babysit it. When you first take over one of the trees, one of the ancient forests, you tend to babysit it because there's a little invasion things are going to happen. You need to take over the surrounding lands or ally with whoever lives there or whatever, or raise them to ground. That is also an option. So you've got those sort of those chores to do, and then usually you've got a little while to wait. So you sort of babysit the tree for a while. Then you start the ritual. A bunch of armies, the little glyphs appear with those armies you can ambush. So you deal with them, and then after that, you're rewarded with a big old garrison and things, which means that forest can basically look after itself after that. It's going to be very, very difficult for any armies to be able to destroy it. So I think that's really nice. So you're sort of rewarded with like, yeah, you can go to the next tree now. This place it's fine. It's back up to full health. It's great. So I like that. So a piece of amber you also get as a reward, which is awesome, which you can spend in the technology tree for really powerful buffs, like really powerful stuff in there. It's really good. And Immortal Empires, playing as Drycha, because she's got a couple of additional ones, you can't get all of the techs. You can't get them all, which is pretty cool. There's so much amber you can't get all the techs. And then in Vortex Campaign, no matter who you're playing, you can't get all the techs. So it's pretty cool. I say no matter who you're playing, like there's a lot of choice in the Vortex campaign. I'm pretty sure it's just the Sisters of Twilight in Vortex, but still. So in Athelloren, completing the Ritual of Rebirth will unlock the final battle and campaign victory. So that I love. So you still have that final battle like you did in sort of the original campaign. And that was something I loved about the original campaign, to be honest. I loved that it was a narrative thing where you worked your way up to a battle where you won the game. I thought that was great. I actually love that. I think all campaigns need to have like a narrative sort of finality to them. They're the best ones, they're the best ones. Like ending with the final battle, it's very rewarding, and it means that you're not just aimlessly painting the map with just more armies than the game can handle anymore, because just auto-resolving for 200 turns is boring. So give us a nice distinctive narrative finish, and this does, which is lovely. So new mechanic, Deep Roots Teleportation. So this is just nuts. I love it. Again, you'd see this in the rework, but in any of the content I've done for the Wood Elves, for the Orion preview campaign, and for Drycha, Wood Elves can now instantly transport armies across the world via the Deep Roots. This powerful ability comes with certain restrictions, so armies must start within a specified magical forest and can only teleport to other magical forests. This ability has a 10-turn cooldown that can be reduced over time by various effects. So every 10 turns you can teleport someone across the map. So this, to clarify, because this doesn't clarify it very well, it says a specified magical forest. No, it means any magical forest is what that means. It's not specific magical forest, it's just, it has to be specifically a magical forest, okay? This is really, really badly worded. It completely gives the wrong impression. If you have an army in any magical forest, they can then teleport to any other magical forest. Doesn't matter who owns it. So, the idea is, you've got your little island with your little, heathlands around it. I say island, it's not a real island. It's just you've got your settlement, your tree, your forest. You wanna feed, put the health up to win the campaign, and then you've got the nearby settlements that are the heathlands that you need to take over or ally with whoever owns them. And so you do that, and then rather than having to march across the whole map to get to another one of those trees, or conquer your whole way across the map to get to another one of those trees or forests or whatever, it's just a tree on the campaign map, so I call them trees. You can just teleport. Which means you can actually just sort of start in Aloran, and then your first mission can be, let's go to Lustria, which is awesome. So you end up with just huge variety, and it means every campaign you play can feel very different depending on where you start and what faction you're playing. So huge amount of different combinations. You can start in a billion different ways. It's really cool. It's really cool. So I love this mechanic. It's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant, and it just means that you can get from one forest to another, because having to conquer your way across, you would have to take the entire world to complete the campaign, and that would be so boring. You just end up with a bunch of full stacks, your economy would be ludicrous, and you'd just auto-resolve everything. So that'd be so dull, but this way it keeps it really interesting. I love it. So this ability has a 10-turn cooldown, which can be reduced, although I find that is a bit unreliable sometimes. I've had times where it's like, oh, it's reduced, and then it just won't be, but I'm still on early access, so, who knows, maybe that's fixed. So, new mechanic, forest encounters. When playing as the Wood Elves, special forest encounters. Encounter markers will spawn near your forest. Sending an army to this marker will offer narrative choices that help shape the way you play or your campaign. Shape the way you'll play or your... This is very weirdly worded, but it's fine. They're clearly busy with the other patch notes. Some of which will result in unique thematic battles. Yeah. So this is what I was saying. So this, you often get other things happening when you first take over a forest, but actually it's better than that. Sometimes you will get an encounter next to a forest that you don't own yet, and that encounter will be a way to confederate with the owners of the forest or something. Or, maybe not confederate, but bully them or something, which is really fun. I think it's a really nice solution to sort of confederation, because it means you've got confederation tied to story choices, which is brilliant, because just going to a diplomacy screen going, I'm bigger than you, be in my faction now, and them going, okay, is boring. It's so dull. It does nothing for the game. Confederation has so many issues, in my opinion. This is how you fix it. This is absolutely how you fix it. So I love it. It gives you proper narrative choice, which is great. Absolutely love it. So, technology tree. The Wood Elf technology tree has been substantially changed. Yeah, it's all different. So, same shape though. It still doesn't look like a tree. Come on, make it look like a tree. It's ridiculous. Anyway, most technologies have had their effects rebalanced. Sorry, coffee burps. Yay! So, most technologies have had their effects rebalanced. Yep, because they're all different. All technologies that previously cost amber have had this cost removed. Brilliant. Several new powerful technologies have been added, but they cost amber, which makes sense in this case because, that amber is way rarer, but those technologies are so much better. So it makes sense. It's not just arbitrarily going, oh, I guess half of these will cost amber because we need to force them to spend it a bit to slow the campaign down. No, none of that. None of that nonsense. So buildings and economy. To compensate for the increased number of settlements available to Wood Elves, the number of building slots available in each Wood Elf region has been reduced slightly. So fine, honestly, it was ludicrously sized. There's still 8 building slots in each, so it's still plenty. However, we have also overhauled the Wood Elf building tree. The changes are too many to list, but here is a summary. Military recruitment. So I like how this works. Instead of growth, it's kindreds. And you only need to spend growth buildings on certain things. So I'll go through their thing because they might explain it. So military recruitment and garrison buildings have been consolidated, reducing the total number of buildings required to access the full roster. So brilliant. Again, it's giving more variety, which is something that the previous campaigns didn't, because, you know, half of it was locked off behind Amber, and you had to build a bunch of buildings. It's just stupid, right? Gave you no access to variety in the campaign. This does, which is great. Economy. Gold income has been spread across several buildings. So there's 3 income buildings now. Public order buildings are now easy to access. Wood Elf major settlement buildings no longer require development points to upgrade. So growth, you know, like population surplus, in this case, kindreds. Instead, development points, now called kindreds, there we go, are used to build economic and infrastructure buildings. So this is a really, really cool thing with it. So so these kindreds, right, which you get from growth, they're not used for the basic garrison building. So in a pinch, you can still get a basic garrison, which is really nice. And they're not used for any of the military recruitment ones, which again is great, because it means you can actually just access the full roster without some arbitrary nonsense. Because imagine having to choose between military buildings in order to access new and exciting units for, you know, nice variety, or income. You might be, like, broke, and you might know it's going to take you, like, 10 turns to get that military building, and then the you know, whatever you get from it, you can't even afford to recruit in the first place. So you're just wasting all your time having to build, you know, get kindreds, having to build up your growth to try and access things, and that's not fun. So what do? They just let you get all the military buildings you want straight away. It's great. Well, as long as you got the building slots, but anyway. And upgrading the main building doesn't even cost development points either, which is awesome. So the major ones just are expensive, but you can just keep getting them, so you can keep unlocking more building slots, which is really cool. And then outposts. Outposts remain largely intended as temporary, disposable settlements. However, their effects have been redesigned in order to reduce the incentive to build as many of them as possible. In addition, outposts should now have slightly larger and more varied garrisons depending on your building choices. So these are much better. Outposts are much better now. I think they're great. They don't have any stupid, like, tiny but global buff, so it's not like every outpost gives 2% additional missile damage and you can stack that to like 1000%. No, none of that nonsense. None of that just like chasing stats, because I hate that. It's so boring. It's funny to see a unit of Weight Watchers destroy a unit in a single volley. I mean, that's funny, but it's not funny for very long. It gets very boring. So this is much better. This is much better. They're just very balanced. They add growth. They have a really nice variety of garrisons, all very small garrisons, but every building has its own garrison, so slightly different unit sets. So you get some very varied, really fun, small battles in this campaign, which is brilliant. If you've been watching the Drycha campaign, you'll see evidence of this. It is awesome. It feels like playing a different game. It's just these tiny little skirmishes that are really rewarding to play. They're just like completely different sort of puzzles. That's the thing, big battles, everything gets a bit muddy. And it's just more sort of broad strokes of like, yeah, our front lines are smashed together and one of them will win, fine. I need to focus on like the single models over here or whatever. When it's much smaller, then you have to make every unit count, and it feels way more involved. It's really fun. So I really like that. I really like that. It's a nice change of pace from everything else. So aspects and spites, Dryad, Streakin, Treeman, and Durthu. Sorry. Treatment in Durthu and Drycha's factions, sorry. So it's only Durthu and Drycha's factions get access to the aspects. So it's the tree-focused ones that get the tree-focused bonuses. So they get aspects. These are purchasable upgrades for units that alter its role by increasing certain stats at a cost of others. Each unit has access to 3 aspects. So first off, Willow, which increases base damage and defense at the cost of armor-piercing damage. Oak, which improves armor and charge defense at the cost of speed, and Birch, which improves armor-piercing damage but reduces physical resistance. So this is really fun. So if you're fighting sort of low-armored enemies, things like Skaven, then it's great just to get rid of the armor-piercing damage but do more base damage. Although this isn't actually correct. It's bonus versus infantry is what that does. It's changed a couple times in the patch. I don't know if this is going to be what it is on release. I like the bonus versus infantry though, so I hope that stays. But anyway, you can see the idea. So you can get rid of like chaffy units better, get rid of more elite units a bit more easily, but at the cost of defense, or just defense at the cost of speed. So you're not going to be able to chase people down, but you can hold your line better. So depending on what you want, you know, your dryads to be doing, or treekin or treeman, which is really fun. So unlike Greenskin scrap upgrades, units are not tied to a single aspect. For a small amount of gold, they can switch between them. So it costs gold to do. So no unique resource required, no amber required, allowing them to adapt to the foe they currently face in campaign. So they can do it on the fly. They can do it on the fly. As long as you can access your unit bar, you know, at the bottom, you can swap them, which is lovely. So it has to be on your turn, basically. But anytime in your turn, you can just swap their things about, which is really good. It's really rewarding. It's really fun. Yeah, it was really good just being like, oh yeah, I swapped those and now I have the advantage. You feel smart for doing that, and it's nice because it means you don't have to rebuild your entire army. You still get to adapt, but with a very limited roster. Because, you know, just Dryads, Treekin, and Treeman, that doesn't seem like a huge variety, but you can deal with a variety of enemies with those same units because they are now adaptable, which is really cool, and you feel rewarded for doing that. And you don't have to re-recruit a new army to deal with a specific faction. It works great, I love it. It feels really good. So, the Wild Hunt. Oh, hang on. This one as well. Ancient Treatment and Branch Rates. I missed a paragraph. So, Ancient Treatment and Branch Rates in all the Wood Elf factions now draw from a separate pool of potential character traits to regular lords called Spites. Each Spite offers a powerful campaign effect and battle ability. These are really good. I really like these. They are really fun. I mean, I don't think it goes into them. I won't. You can see them in campaign. They're really good. They're really good abilities. They're really fun. So, the Wild Hunt. Orion's offices have been rethemed entirely around the Wild Hunt, with new names and effects for each of them. When a hunt is called, all characters in an office will receive bonuses themed to their office, including Orion himself, rather than just a single lord. The duration of the hunt, as well as the time until the next hunt, is now more clearly signposted, so you can time your invasions around it. Honestly, it seems a bit arbitrary to me. It's nice that they get more bonuses, but I find to try and time anything in the campaign around it just feels like you're wasting your time waiting for it. Really, so it's just a nice surprise when he decides to start screaming, Wild Hunt! It's Wild Hunt time, everyone! And then everything gets double bonuses. It's like, alright, cool. Yay. Go, carry on doing what you're doing, mate. It doesn't really change much. It doesn't make me play the game any differently, so it's not something you really need to... I don't know, it's a weird one. Maybe some people will time things around it. If you're playing on, like, Legendary or something, it might become a necessity. I don't know. I find that difficulty tedious, so I don't care about these tiny little bonuses. But, I mean, it's more thematic, it's more of a declaration, it feels like, ooh, yeah, the hunt is on. It's at least, you know, it's a narrative thing, which I like, but I like narrative things with a gameplay implication. This doesn't have much of one, but it's fine. It's fine. Orion's an old lord, so to get something a bit more flavour is good. It's good. It's a step in the right direction. It's just not a very big step, is what I'm getting at. So, the other Wood Elf campaign changes. Wood Elf factions now have access to an improved version of Ambush Stance. Oh, this is a big deal as well, actually. They've had a lot of changes, which has a reduced movement point cost to enter. So they only need to have 10% of their movement remaining rather than 25% that every other faction needs. And a reduced chance of being detected. So one thing that is never properly mentioned or described in the game is that your ambush success chance is a different figure to your chance of being detected. So even if you buff your ambush success chance a huge amount, so you can just be stood in the middle of a road and be on a 100% chance to ambush, your chance to get spotted is still really high as well, because you're just standing in a road. So you will never actually get a chance to get that 100% ambush, because you've been spotted before they've run into you, every time. It doesn't tell you that, it just says 100%, so you think, brilliant, I can't lose, and then you get spotted every time, because the game doesn't tell you both of the figures. So by telling you only one figure, common sense goes out the window, because it's misleading. So anyway, these guys have a reduced chance being detected, so they are more likely to be able to ambush someone when stood in a road, so that's nice. It doesn't tell you exactly by how much, because it doesn't communicate that. It's really frustrating, but use your common sense. It's harder to get spotted if you're in a tree. There you go. If the percentage, like, success chance to ambush is higher, generally it's higher. You know, any positional change on the campaign map. If your percentage to ambush goes up, your percentage to avoiding detection goes up. So, most Wood Elf specific incidents and dilemmas have been updated with more interesting effects and have had their conditions altered to make them less predictable, which is interesting and fun. I'm not really sure exactly how that comes into play, but I mean the events are fun and varied, so yay. Wood Elf specific followers now come from a wider range of sources, reducing the chance of receiving multiple followers in the same battle. Saying that, I have been getting a ludicrous amount of War Dancer drummers, I think. A War Dancer drummer follower, I think it is. I've been getting thousands of those on my Drycha campaign, just that everywhere. Every time I look under a rock, there's another war dancer drummer. Wood elves and dark elves have reduced aversion towards each other. They get on a bit better, which makes sense, because wood elves do kind of bridge the gap between dark elves and high elves. You know, they worship both sides of the pantheon in fairly equal measure. So it's interesting. Durthu's, they're more like, they should be called grey elves. So, Durthu's office effects have been improved and updated, so he's had some changes to his office stuff as well. Upgrading the Oak of Ages is no longer required to unlock Confederation for other Wood Elves. Instead, it grants special Confederation missions. See, I think this is misleading as well, because I'm not sure... I guess the Oak of Ages, upgrading the Oak of Ages does give Confederation missions. I've not really done anything to upgrade the Oak of Ages yet. Not really. Because the most I've played is Drycha and the Sisters of Twilight in the Vortex campaign, so it's like not applicable really. So I guess they do for like the other ones in Athaloran, I imagine, but you generally get a bunch of different missions to confederate with various elves as you play anyway. So Wood Elves no longer have any restrictions on trade, so they can trade with anyone, so yay. The original defensive Oak final battle has been rebalanced, with enemy army compositions made more interesting and dangerous. So this is really good, because Warhammer 1 battles were way easier. I don't know quite why, but quest battles were super easy. I think they just thought like they didn't want to make it too difficult, they wanted to be accessible. But I think they've realised that their community wants a nice gritty, big final battle. It's more rewarding. So they put it more in line with the Warhammer 2 battles that are a bit more challenging. So that's good. Bug fixes. Campaign. Fixed a crash that could occur when disbanding a garrison lord when the lord is recruiting units. So yeah, this is all obviously stuff that's going to apply to old things, right? So this is going to be a big, tedious list of stuff. So again, I'll let you pause it. You can make a cuppa. Good lads. So, fixed a crash that could occur when disbanding a garrison lord while the lord is recruiting units. Fixed a crash that could occur when loading into Silostra's The Bordelot Flabellum quest battle. Fixed several rare script breaks that could cause some features to not work until the game is reloaded. Siege panel scripted tour no longer soft locks if siege panel is dismissed before it starts. Whatever that means. Save games requiring the Amethyst Wizard will now inform the user that they must install the character's DLC to work. Okay. Fix an issue where several units would T-pose on the campaign map. The Dwarf Redline skill, honoured by Grimnir, now properly applies to both base and armour-piercing damage. Mazdamundi has caught up on his to-do list and connected some missing province capitals to the geometric web. Good. Massive Orkul and Torivres are no longer able to support fully Wood Elf settlements with enormous garrisons. Okay, cool. That's good. Removed several ancillary restrictions from Skaven-specific followers and banners, so more types of Skaven characters can equip them. Good, that's nice. Fixed missing sacrificial offerings icon when playing a Sotek. Adjusted the rules for what items can be stolen, destroyed, or otherwise lost for a variety of items. It should now be much rarer to experience losing one-off or otherwise unique items. These items should now instead return to your item pool when the holding character dies. Red Crested Skink units were no longer buffed twice by some effects when playing as Tehenowin. Goblin Fanatic Archers will now correctly receive campaign bonuses that are relevant to them. Reinforcements will now count for the WAR bar total in battle. Ah, that's sort of a shame. It was a hilarious bug where if you were fighting, like if you attacked one guy that was next to a big army, the WAR bar would fill up in relation to how many of your guys you had in combat against, like their full army, which is a single dude. So you'd get in combat with them and your bar would just fill up like lightning. So you could do WAR like again and again and again and again and again. It was hilarious. That's quite fun. Anyway, so that isn't happening now. It takes the full army into account, which is how it should be, obviously. But anyway, fixed issues where mount icons were not appearing for a variety of different mount types in the campaign equipment event system. Examples include Doom Wheels, Doom Flayers, Engine of the Gods, and Ripperdactyls. Okay. Interesting. Not really sure exactly what that was, but I guess we'll see more of all of those things show up. I guess. Recruitment panel will now close when opening unit upgrades and vice versa. Okay, good. Updated drop conditions for Norscan follower ancillaries, enabling 11 ancillaries to now drop that previously only dropped in Total War Warhammer 1. So basically, Norsca gets 11 new ancillaries, which is good. I haven't played a Norsca campaign since Warhammer 1, believe it or not. That's on my to-do list, for sure. Various sources of immunity to bankruptcy have been removed. That's pretty funny, because, yeah, it was kind of ridiculous that you go bankrupt and not suffer attrition. So you could just, like, save up a bunch of money, use all of that on recruitment for huge, terrifying units like Star Dragons or whatever, and then just have, like, an army that can't suffer attrition, that would just run in and murder everybody. Even though there's no way you should be able to afford it. So assigning a skill point to a skill on a hero will no longer sometimes switch to Army Lord's details or skills. Fix non-repeatable rituals in Tehenuin's sacrifice panel, showing as repeatable. Nikai no longer has duplicate occupation options at the Fortress of the Damned. Generic Lisbon characters can no longer generate with the unique name Lord Shilitep of Itza. Repanse is no longer missing the top-line skill Lionhearted. Oh, that's good. I can't remember what that one is. I did a Repanse campaign. It was a lot of fun. I can't remember. It was about a year ago, actually. Wow, it was like last December, I think. So Repanse no longer has access to Lewin's unique Hippogriff Knight skill in her blue campaign line. The Treekin have duly been milked for their delicious sap. What? Okay. Alright. Fix an issue preventing Tomb Kings from being able to upgrade Crack from Ruins to Tier 1. Oh, okay, that's weird. But okay. Additional upkeep on supply lines tooltip will now show correct value. Added Snow, Chaos, and Mountain campaign attrition immunity types to the Chaos Horsemaster unit. Oh, well, that was weird, they didn't have that. Tomb King technology Pride in Service now buffs Tomb Guard ROI unit. Tomb King technology Underworld Gate now correctly buffs the Necrosphinx units rather than War Sphinx units. Swapped the Herald of Jaff and Resetra unit. Affects bonuses around with each other to match descriptions within the Tomb King's Dynasty tech panel. Single-use rituals for the Dwarf Forge no longer show as repeatable. Single-use rituals for the Mortuary Cult no longer show as repeatable. Malice's final shipment icon will now update correctly. Transported army unit count will no longer slide to the left, slide to the right, or slide to the left. Let's shake it all about. Nope, mixed two songs there. I was thinking of Time Warp, but also the Hokey Cokey. Anyway, when changing the stance of an army in the Lord and Heroes drop-down menu. Stance icon has been removed for transported armies to prevent clipping in the Lord and Heroes drop-down menu. The Big Fort landmark at Black Crag now also allows recruitment of Black Orc Big Boss characters and increases their capacity by 2. Control Large Army option will no longer disappear in the pre-battle screen if loaded with Lightning Strike enabled. God, there really is a lot of them, huh? Okay, so replacing Greenskins Legendary Lords with other Legendary Lords during a war will no longer result in the player having access to several war abilities. Wow, that's crafty. That's very sneaky. Snitch will now automatically equip the Whirl of Weeping Blades on mission completion. That's something that always seems to go awry. There's always like certain items that don't equip properly. It's very odd. But then I guess they have to really input all that stuff manually, right? Anyway, Malekith's Mortal Empire victory conditions now correctly no longer reference Ulthuan in the Owning of Provinces section. Okay, good. Alistair the White Lion unique trait now properly reduces the upkeep of all Shrasian units. That's cool. I like that. I like that Alistair the White Lion is like a proper like character now. The only thing that really like makes him not a full legendary lord is that you can't just start a campaign with him. But I think it's really cool that he's in there. If any of you guys don't know by now, I'm sure most of you in the community know already. Alistair the White Lion was added as a Make-A-Wish like foundation wish for a kid who apparently has been recovering, so that's good. Last I heard, he was doing really well, so we can only assume that it's because of Alistair, right? Also, I'm doing my hair in in my webcam right now. I need a haircut again. It's getting a bit scruffy. Anyway, so unique trait now properly reduces upkeep of tracing units. Tyrion's innate trait, Great Warrior, now correctly grants upkeep reduction to rangers. Scrap upgrades will no longer show on unit cards of unrevealed units. Fixed issue with text icon in event message for unlocking the right of the sudden kill scheme with Snitch and his shadowy dealings feature. The greenskin red line De Big Lads now applies to De Swamp Things and De Biggin. Arthurian's Break Upon the Walls skill now correctly applies its arbor benefit to Mistwalker units with shields. Removed outdated references to Slan Mage Priest capacity from Hexoatl faction effects. Master Mundi now receives the same benefits as the other second generation Slan. Can no longer retreat from the Warden of Paunch final battle. Fixed a bug where the army and settlement panels could appear in post-battle screen of the host in multiplayer under certain conditions. Can no longer change technology research when it isn't your turn in multiplayer campaign. You can no longer remove characters from offices when it is not your turn in multiplayer. You can now see the ambush stance icon of your co-op partner in multiplayer. Okay, well that's actually quite useful. That is nice to know. I never play multiplayer, but that's a good thing to have, to be able to coordinate, you know. Anyway, no longer able to toggle other players' AI control option in the pre-battle screen. Ambush battles in the old world mountain choke points will no longer use a Dark Elf themed map. Oh, good. Armies can no longer clip into the mountains on Dread Rock Island. Fixed missing unit card for Ghost Thane Dwarf when using the Horn of the Ancestors magical item in battle. I had forgot about that. You can summon a Thane, can't you? The 3 rifts in Mazdamundi's Ruination of Cities abilities will no longer cast on top of each other. That's a big deal, because that really ruined that spell. Ruination of Cities is such a powerful, cool thing. If anyone doesn't remember, it's the one that goes like in 3 different directions. It makes that face as well. And yeah, it's really good. It's a really great ability, but what was happening is all 3 prongs are going the exact same direction, so, you know, and they pretty much wipe out anything they touch anyway, so it would wipe someone out and then just rub it in. So it was a bit pointless. Fixed audio text mismatch in Altharian's pre-final battle movie. Fixed incorrect recruitment rank gained effect text for the Blood Dragon tier 2 and 3 Bloodlines rituals to now correct show experience per turn. That's wordy and weird. Blood Dragon stuff was wrong. Corrected 2 typos where the dragon Imrath in Imrik's dragon taming feature was being called Imrath in the game. Oh, imagine. It was literally unplayable. I love how self-aware the patch notes are. It's great. Fixed a text spacing issue in spell browser target section. Fixed some unit names being cut off and having an ellipses added to them in the recruit mercenary event summaries. Character skill names. I'm dying right now. So many things. So many things have changed. Character skill names and descriptions will now be consistent when leveling up skills when playing in non-English languages. Hooray for non-English languages. Bonjour. Non-Anglais. Elect account tooltips will no longer cut off in various languages. Battle. Battle now. We're on to battle. There's a bunch of battle ones as well. Okay, so... Now I'm having more coffee. I'm almost out of coffee. So, fixed an issue where the kill counter would not attribute kills from the explosion components of bombardments to the caster. Oh, that's actually really good, actually. That was sort of annoying when you do spells and abilities and things, and then you wouldn't know how well it did. That was always very sad. That was always very annoying. Fix an issue where the kill counter would not attribute kills from damage over time effect applied via projectile contact to the attacker. Whatever, tracking stuff better is better, so fine. Fix an issue where projectile prediction was incorrect on slopes. Oh yeah, that was really annoying. You get really weird arrow, like, movements, and you'd shoot your own guys in the back, and it was all ridiculous. So, fixed missile damage displaying with the red modifier in custom battle screen. Ancient Salamander moved from the monsters category to the missile monsters category, because he is one. Projectile tooltip will now list total missile damage and reload time rather than base missile damage and base reload time. In multiplayer lobbies, the Lord effect will now display when mousing over the star in the Lord selection dropdown. Oh, that's fun. It's pretty good. So, corrected Azhag's faction symbol in the quest battle menu to now use the Bone Rattlers icon rather than the Greenskins. Oh, that's, you know, a small change, but good. Good, that's consistent with the campaign now. Fixed the custom battle uniform and portrait entry for Skink Priest of Heavens when mounted on an Ancient Stegodon. Engine of the Gods. Very important. Engine of the Gods. Fixed missing unit card and porthole for, or porthole, as I like to say, incorrectly, but imagine, the unit porthole. It's just... Get more coffee. Anyway. For summoned White King character, when overcasting Helman Gorth's Awaken Grave ability. Vampire Coast Fleet captains now count towards the ranged unit cap. Okay. Noctilus on Necrovex Colossus now counts towards the ranged unit cap. Rotting Promethean Gunnery Mob now counts towards the ranged unit cap. I sent a theme. Deck Droppers now count towards the ranged unit cap. Are you spotting a theme here? Yes! Yes, I actually am. Wow, okay. Now I'm slightly aware that this document might be cursed, or self-aware, because that was spooky. So, Arcane Phoenix ROR now counts towards the Arcane Phoenix cap. DJ Katep on the Casket of Souls. Really? You're calling him DJ Katep in the patch notes? Bloody hell. Now counts towards the range unit cap. DJ Katep on the Casket of Souls now counts towards the Casket of Souls cap. Ushabti Greatbow now counts towards the range unit cap. Sepulchral Stalkers now count towards the range unit cap. High Beastmaster on Scourge Master Chariot now counts towards the range unit and the Scourge Runner Chariot caps. Razorgore Herds no longer count towards the Razorgore Chariot cap. Yeah, that's a weird one. Razorgore Chariots now count towards the Razorgore Chariot cap. Really, it was backwards. So Razorgores were counting towards a cap that they weren't one of, and the thing what do didn't. I explain it much better. So, you know, this is why I do these videos. So you guys really get it. Debiggen now counts towards the range unit cap. All Greenskin Troll units now have their own unit caps instead of sharing one between them. Marauder Horsemen now count towards the range unit cap. Grom the Paunch now counts towards the chariot cap. Volkmar the Grim no longer counts as a chariot when on his barded horse. Clerical mix-up, the War Altar now counts as a chariot. The Doomwheel and Doomflayer mounts now count towards their respective unit caps. No more third wheels. Ha ha. Stake it on, brackets, Engine of the Gods. Mounts now count towards the range unit cap. Miscellaneous. Reordered races alphabetically within the help pages to make it easy to find the content information. Yeah, makes sense. There are help pages. Fixed issue where the Black Orc Big Boss wasn't appearing in the game guide. Master volume heading should now be translated correctly in localized languages. Oak of Ages, Roots, Manavad. What? I'm sure that's a joke. Or something. I'm sure that's a reference to something. Anyone have a clue what that is? I have no idea. I have no idea, but yay. Campaign changes. Oh my god, really? There's more? There's more campaign changes? Yeah, there is. There's a lot more. There's a lot more. How long have we been going? 51 minutes. Okay, cool. Once again, guys, stick the kettle on, okay? And I'll do my hair, apparently. Alright, there we go. There. You're a wizard, Harry. Anyway, Clan Rectus now starts with an Undercity beneath Crookback Mountain in Mortal Empires. The Clan Wars headquarters building now also provides Chieftain Hero recruitment. When starting a campaign as Malagor, the Marshes of Madness region is given to the top knots to prevent him from taking attrition on turn 1. Yeah, that's unfortunate that was... Yeah, that's unfortunate that was the case. That's a horrible way to start. Start by melting or starving to death or whatever the hell. Attrition is there. The High Elf Hunters military recruitment chain has been merged with the Handmaidens Gallery. An additional Tier 2 building has been added to the chain, allowing for earlier recruitment of Great Eagles. Oh, which makes sense, because Great Eagles have always been way too high tier for what they are. I mean, for a flyer like that, you only got dragons and stuff in the faction. Like, yeah, Great Eagle's nothing. You should be able to get it nice and early. Alariel retains a separate Tier 3 building for recruitment of Sisters of Avalon. Note, this will cause some previously constructed building to appear incorrectly in older saves. These can be safely demolished. So that's good. That's good. They didn't remove references to those things entirely, so, you know, it's not going to break anything. Public Order now provides bonus. It provides bonus and penalties per threshold for all factions. So yeah, if you guys were hoping for more bonus, then you got them. Growth needed per point has been increased slightly. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Added display for economic modifiers in building effects. Malice Sanity effect tweaks. Don't know what that... It doesn't say what the tweaks are. They've just been tweaked. So, fine. Mazdamundi now gets all the benefits of being a second-generation Slan. Community request. Yeah, we did get that in the other patch notes. New buffs for Helm and Gorst. Good, because Gorst is useless. I forget what his buffs are. They're very good, though. I mean, not very good, but they're, like, better. I mean, he had charge bonus for corpse cards. Like, who is charging anyone with a corpse card and being like, yeah, run him down? It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous bonus. So he's got something much better now, but I forget exactly what it is. I'm sure it'll be in the unit patch notes. So a patch notes button is now present in the game's front-end menu for quick access. That is really good, actually. That is really nice. I love that. Very cool. So, auto-resolver. Artillery does not suffer from echo fire anymore, where artillery shooting at near an enemy ranged unit would always allow those ranged units shoot back no matter the distance. Interesting. Disabled another part of the system to apply unit losses. AI. Less likely to react to public order problems in an extreme fashion. I don't know what extreme fashions they were, but okay. Updated Wood Elf AI to deal with new content changes. obviously. AI Lords to get bonus on experience gained. Okay, good, so they're going to hopefully sort of keep up with us a bit. That's always a problem later in the campaign. Everyone you're fighting sucks, and you just beat the crap out of them. It's a bit dull. So that's good. Diplomatic events will now affect the AI more if they generally like or dislike the other race. Okay, that's... I'm not really sure what that means exactly, but I guess they'll... like, factions will behave more like the factions are supposed to, arguably. Further reduced AI's priority to capture regions of unsuitable climate. Reduced cultural aversion between Dark Elves and Wood Elves. And several minor AI recruitment adjustments. I hope there's a ton to Skaven. I haven't really seen evidence of it yet, because I haven't bumped into a lot of Skaven yet. Not a huge amount in my campaigns, but my biggest ask, I think, for the game in general, I think Skaven are ruining it, because we're getting the same armies no matter what Skaven we bump into. It's like, I mean, now there's a bunch of Molder stuff, so I don't know how it's changed. But I was getting so sick of just bumping it, like, in the late game. Every Skaven army was just stacks of weapon teams and storm vermin. All the time. So I hope there's more distinction. And, like, that's like Clan Pestilence would be doing that, you know? So I hope there's way more distinction between what they choose to do. So I hope there's a bunch of AI things done for that. I really hope so. But I'm going to keep bothering them about it, so don't worry. Because that is a biggie, you know? So much variety. Add so much flavour to the different factions, but not if they all hire the same troops. So anyway, behaviour of the Lords and Heroes list has changed. A single click will now select the character without panning to them. Double click will select and pan to them, which is the old behaviour. Okay? It's changed. I'm confused. Single click will now select the character, and double clicking will select and pan to them. Isn't that the same? Isn't that the same? Oh, that's just for the... Okay, that's just for the Lords and Heroes list, I guess. I don't know, whatever. That's just for the little list you can get on the side of the screen, I guess, for the Lords and Heroes. Anyway, new settlement, settlement abandonment. Oh yeah! Sorry, new feature, not new settlement. Oh, there aren't new settlements, but yeah, new feature, settlement abandonment. It is now possible for the player to abandon settlements that they own via a new button. They can be found by mousing over the settlement's main building chain. So this is something people have been asking for forever. So settlement's marked for abandonment will be raised at the start of the player's next turn. The player can choose to cancel the abandonment before this happens. So this is something people have been asking for ages. Sometimes you take a settlement by accident, pretty much, or you take it and then you realise it's just not worth your time to like take over the rest of the province, or you know that you can't keep it from rebelling because your allies decided to take the rest of the bloody settlement, like the rest of the province, and so you can't get the whole thing and then get your commandments, so you just want to get rid of it. Now you can. Now you can. Sadly, still can't trade settlements with your allies, but, you know, it's a start. It's a start. So, faction, lord, and effects. Okay, so these are the... Here we go. Here we go. Helm and Gorst. It did mention it here. Brilliant. Faction effects. Removed the charge bonus for corpse cart units. just running people down on a ride-on lawnmower. It's pathetic. It's so stupid. And added a bound spell, Lesser Raise Dead, for Corpse Cart and Mortis Engine units. So all of his Corpse Cart and Mortis Engine units can now raise dead, which is way cooler, and just, it makes so much more sense. And also, Lord Effect added 15 armor for zombie units. So that means that all of his troops, all of his Corpse Carts are loaded with better zombies, you know, with better armor, and he just tips them up, zombies spill out and start going at everyone, and then buffed by the corpse carts themselves. How cool is that? Like, that is way more thematic and interesting, and it's just great. Like, that just suits him so well. That's way better than a bloody charge bonus for corpse carts. I mean, come on. So that's really fun. So that's a really fun change. I'm still probably never going to play a campaign with him because he's quite a boring character, but like, that is a much more interesting thing if you recruit him as like a secondary you know, Lord, if you're playing a Manfred von Karstein campaign or something. That's really fun. That's really unique. So, points there. That's a really nice thematic change that feels very interesting and fun. So, major points for that. Really reinvented him. It's good. So, Archaon the Everchosen. Removed the +10 leadership for Chaos Warrior units. I don't need that. Silly. Added +3% weapon and missile strength per veterancy rank for all units. Wow, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. That's really interesting, that. So anyway, Prince Sigvald the Magnificent, the salacious, scandalous, sensational servant of Slanesh, son of Succubi, side of sordid acts, and slayer of squalid serfs. He gets +15 armor for embedded characters, which is cool, so his retinue is going to be much better, and added Rage passive for all Marauder units, which is really quite good, and upgrades to Berserk when rank 7+. That is really interesting, actually. This is something that I've never really seen, I realise. I've never seen skills that scale by veterancy, you know? So that's really interesting, if that's a mechanic they're going to start exploring more. Because then it opens up to have, like, units that can evolve, you know? So it could be a case of, like, you could have spearmen that, you know, once they get to rank 7, right, once they get to a gold chevron, they don't just have charged defense versus large, but get charged defense versus all, you know? You could have things like that start happening, which would be really cool. I'd love to see that. I think that'd be really good. It feels more like an RPG sort of element there, which is great. I really encourage that kind of thing. More story stuff and more sort of upgradable units like that. I think that's amazing. So, Lord effects. Removed the +3 recruit rank for Marauder units. Added Strider for all units. That's really cool too. Wow. Yeah, that's really good. That'll really keep his boys moving. So, Ungrim Iron Fist. Now gains +5 melee attack to Slayers, down from 10. Oh, okay. So Slayers aren't going to be quite as good for him. Journey's End ability for Slayers now disables at 75% hit points remaining instead of 50%. So these are actually just debuffs for Ungrim, which is a bit sad, but he was very good. And Slayers were ludicrous. Tretch Craven Tail added +3 recruit rank for Storm Vermin units. +3 is hefty. Added Encourage for Storm Vermin units. That's really good as well to keep leadership up of all the front line. Added improved Scurry Away, ward save, and improved speed benefits. Very cool. Mazdamundi removed a redundant reference to Slann Mage Priest capacity. And Lord Effect now gains all the bonuses of a second generation Slann in addition to previous effects. Why doesn't it tell you what that is? I'd love to know what that is, because I can't think what that is off the top of my head. I haven't played enough Lisbon campaigns, and when I have, I've not really been getting a bunch of Slann, because they're locked behind a right, which I always forget to do. So, you know. Ancillaries, Krokgar's Spear of Talangstala now also grants the Discouraged contact effect, which is very powerful actually. That's great to have. That's very great. Cool. So, skills for the vampire count. The Lord Skill Dark Pact now grants +5 leadership when attacking, down from 15. Yeah, 15 is big. That's a big thing. That stops your whole army from crumbling. It's nuts. Dwarfs Ungrim's Skill Slayer King now grants +5 melee attack instead of 10. That's already been mentioned. Lizardman Krokgar's Skill Spawning of Shrotel now also grants the ability Sacred Spawning of Shrotel. Okay, I'm not sure what that ability is, but it rings a bell. I think it's a good one. Huh. Can't remember. Wood Elves, all Wood Elf Lords have had their blue line reworked to be more in line with existing Warhammer 2 skip trees. Yes, they have, and it shows. It's really good. They've made some nice changes, which is good. Orion now has a unique skill line, and Durthu now has a unique skill line. So, you know, all in line with the rework. All great. So, classic. And Chaos Sigvold the Magnificent Skill Unworthy now additionally grants Fear alongside the original Terror. Do I have any coffee left? Just a bit. We did it, guys. We drank the coffee. It's very cold. It's very cold now. Chaos, Sigvold, Magnificent Skill, Unworthy now grants Fear alongside the original Terror, which is interesting, actually, because I guess Terror just procs if your leadership is within a threshold, whereas Fear drops leadership. So the idea that he couldn't terrify people quite as well because he wouldn't scare them first is quite funny. They weren't scared of him until they were really scared of him. Sigvold Magnificent Skill, marked by Slanesh, now grants charmed attacks and +5 leadership aura effect. That's really cool, actually. That's nice, because charmed attacks lower enemy melee attack, I believe. That's really good. That's actually really nice. I like that. I like that a lot. Technologies. The Empire improved heavy weapons technology now additionally grants expert charge defense for halberdier units. Oh, good. That's good. Battle changes. Oh my god. Yeah, of course there is. There's a bunch of other stuff here. How? How are we still going? An hour long. Well, thanks for sticking around, guys. This has been amazing. And amazingly, no unit stat changes. There are no unit stat changes in this document. That's going to be another document that is apparently much bigger. So yeah, it's going to be a busy few days, guys. It's going to be a busy few days. A lot to go through, if you're so inclined. You might not be here anymore. You might have already left. In which case, I'm talking to myself. Which is fine. You know, I'm good company. When mousing over the kill counter on a unit, the tooltip now provides 2 additional stats for tracking unit performance, which we've been through earlier in this video. It was so long ago, though, you might have forgotten. Damage dealt tracks the raw damage dealt by the unit to other units. Damage value tracks the rough value of damage the unit has dealt. For example, if attacking a unit worth 1,000 gold with 10,000 health, you will gain 500 value if you deal 5,000 damage to it. This is intended to provide feedback on the performance of the unit that focus on taking out expensive and powerful targets. Projectile vegetation grace periods. This is a big change that is really, really fun. I love it. Projectiles now have the ability to pass through trees for a limited time after being created. So you shoot an arrow, it can go through trees for a bit. So you can actually shoot from within forests. And you're not going to shoot the tree right in front of you because you're a trained archer, and why would you shoot the tree that's 2 feet in front of you? Come on. So that's really good. This is a global rule that applies to all non-artillery units. That is a big change. In the original build, it was also artillery units, and it was broken. Because you could just hide artillery with a tree in front of them, and no artillery could shoot back at them. You couldn't hurt the artillery units. The trees would cover it, but they could shoot. It was bad. This behaviour lasts for a limited duration after the projectile is fired relative to the speed of the projectile, significantly reducing instances of units firing weapons into trees that are a few feet from them. So really, really nice that. So it means that if you've got 2 units of archers, one in a forest and one out of the forest, and they're shooting at each other, the one in the forest will properly get bonuses here, you know. A lot of the enemy's arrows will be hitting the trees, and they won't be hitting the trees they're hiding in, which makes perfect sense. That's how it should be, right? The idea that it can take cover in forests is brilliant, and that it's a common sense thing that's changed. And because it's a global rule, it's not like you have to remember which units can do it, which can't. It's really nice. I think it's a beautiful change. I'm so glad that's in there. That feels like just a classic, like, Total War common sense, using the environment to your advantage. You know, things like using hills, and you can now use forests for more than just hiding, which is really good. I really like that. So, brilliant. So who can hide in the forest? We took a look at which units can hide in the forest recently, as there were several inconsistencies to how this attribute was being distributed. We've now generated some criteria that units must abide by if they are to have any hope of hiding in the forest of the Warhammer world. Infantry and cavalry have always been able to hide in forest, so no changes there. Chariots can now hide in forests, whereas they couldn't previously. We felt that since cavalry could hide, this felt like an arbitrary inconsistency, so now all chariots can hide. This affects all single and multi-entity chariots, including corpse carts, war wagons, and snotting pump wagons. Which is great, because, yeah, fine. I think that's fine. Because, yeah, like, ambushing someone with chariots feels really appropriate. You know, them suddenly, like, coming out the forest, rolling down a hill, and, you know, it feels right. Monstrous infantry were a web of inconsistencies. Kroxigors and skinwolves could hide in the forest, whilst trolls and Famir could not. This inconsistency has been fixed, so now all ground-based multiple entity monstrous infantry can hide in forests. This change benefits the following units. All trolls, dragon ogres, not Shaggoth though, no siree. Whoever writes this, well done. Animated hulks, Chaos Spawn, Crypt Horrors, and Famir Warriors. Large monsters cannot hide in forests as they are absolute chonkers. Love the word chonkers, I've been using it quite a lot lately. Big old honking chonker. And Famir Warriors, that's a different paragraph entirely. I'm lower down now, my bad. However, some of the shorter monsters can still hide in forests. Example, Brood Horror, Ancient Salamander. Oh, okay, so I guess that's that doesn't feel like a obvious criteria anymore. That feels like an arbitrary divide again, doesn't it? Which is what they were supposedly avoiding. So yeah, okay, if it's got a low profile, fine. But I guess if it looks like it can hide, right? So fine, I suppose. Additionally, units that are like trees can also hide in forests. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's common sense. It's a tree. You know, you can't see the monster for all the trees. You can't see the forest for the treeman. Anyway, flying units cannot hide in the forest because they fly over the forest. Thus, they are never in the forest to begin with. Yeah. War machines are generally large and loud, so they cannot hide in forest. Much to Ikit dismay. I think that makes sense. Like, you can always tell there's something in the forest there because you can hear their engines, right? So that's fine. Brood horrors, as far as I'm aware, don't have engines. Artillery pieces are cumbersome, so they can also they also cannot hide in forest. Bolt throwers, on the other hand, are comparatively small and light for artillery pieces, so they can hide in forests. Huh. The Casket of Souls can no longer hide in forests. No matter how much Nehekaran magic the Tomb Kings have, they can't cover up the fact that this is a literal vortex of screaming souls trying to burst out of a casket that's rumbling along on a bed of skulls. Not so sneaky. Understandable. Very understandable. Low profile, but it is a literal vortex of screaming souls. So fair enough. So, general changes here. The morale benefits granted by the Encourage attribute has been normalised to 4 leadership for both characters and units. Oh, interesting. Previously, units were with Encourage, granted +8 leadership baseline, and characters, Heroes and Lords, granted +3. That's odd. That seems strange, that the units that would encourage are better than your general's encouragement. So that's novel. Improved halt behaviour on units. Halted units will now more reliably fight back if engaged in melee. Oh, that's good, because sometimes they can be a bit stupid. So, revamped entity collision rules. Previously, every collision interaction result, knockback, knockdown, and so on, was checked every game tick between every entity. Following a review, we have now added a 2-second grace period between these checks. Between specific entities. Previously, stats such as knock, ignore chance were notably less effective than they were intended to be. The result for this is that the entity pushing over another might actually be causing 10 checks a second against this, and the unit only has to fail 1 to go flying. Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? Additionally, this caused a general overperformance of larger entities since they effectively multiplied their chance to knock things they ran into by trying it till it works. Under the new system, any collision that results in a knock reaction is first rolled against by the knock ignore chance. If the entity makes or fails this check, they are now immune to further knock reactions from that specific other entity for 2 seconds. So you can still have a bunch of different things charging at different paces, charging at like staggered and knock people over, which I think is brilliant and makes a lot of sense for that to happen. This only happens if the interaction results in a knock reaction. Incidental entity versus entity brushing does not consume your opportunity for a knock. What does that mean in practical terms? Characters can generally much sturdier on their feet. Some notably sturdy characters, Ungrim, he can brace now too, are almost impossible to knock down. All units should generally be a bit sturdier, though units that were always going to be knocked down due to sheer mass and speed differences will be unaffected. It should be harder on average to pull through units attempting to pin you in place, as you no longer get 10 attempts per second to knock down entities you're walking through. Oh, that's interesting. So if you're like a Shaggoth in a unit of infantry, what was actually allowing you to escape from that unit was the fact that the units would be knocked over. And now they're not gonna. Which is really interesting, actually. That is really interesting. Also, very scary. It means single, like, sort of monster mashing is not going to have the same effect as it once was. You can't just send everything flying again and again and again and just crush everything, you know, with hordes of units. Although I guess there's still some degree of that because it's from that specific unit. So you're getting multiple chances if you're throwing, you know, millions of hawks at a unit, for instance, which I have been demonstrating quite a lot in the Drycha campaign. I really like millions of hawks. Millions of hawks are great. So, bracing behaviour for characters. Following the discussions around why bracing cannot be performed by the majority of units, we've moved to a system where we tag which units can brace manually. This replaces the previous system where bracing was based on a series of logical tests with the unit. We now manually tag who should be able to brace. Under the previous system, only multi-entity infantry and monstrous infantry could brace. But that has now expanded to infantry and monstrous infantry single-entity characters. Additionally, any charge defense attribute now also enables bracing for the unit. To clarify, characters which are engaged in melee and facing their targets retain their brace status while fighting. This allows them to be more resistant to knockdowns while actively facing off against bigger creatures or other characters. This is not a new behaviour, but is notably apparent for single entities compared to multi-entity units. And yes, Ungrim does now finally beat his that arch nemesis of his. Ungrim 1, Feral Stegodon, 57,213. That's great. Wonderful. So, Wood Elves, Orion. Oh my god, how is there more? How are there more notes? So, can now use jump attacks when charging or surrounded. Yay! Can now throw javelins while on the move. Oh wow, that's actually a really big deal that I didn't notice. That's a big deal. That is a really big deal that he can actually chase and still throw. That makes him crazy good at hunting lords and heroes and things. If he fights him in a duel, they're going to die. Like, even if they think they can escape, if they're on a horse or something, running a straight line away from him, he can just chase and javelin them down. His javelins are ludicrously good at like damaging like mounted lords and heroes. They're great. So, spells and abilities. Remove minimum cast range for all vortex, explosion, wind, breath, and summon spells and abilities. Also remove minimum cast range of Net of Amatok. That's really satisfying, because that always felt very arbitrary. Some vortexes could, some couldn't, and it just got really annoying. Being like, oh right, yeah, that's one that I can't do on my, like, you know, I can't hit the people that are killing me with. So, yeah, it was a bit annoying. So that's nice. It just gives you more flexibility with spells. It feels less arbitrary. You're not punished for lack of lack of knowledge, I suppose. on a spell, it feels a bit more, yeah, you know what the spell does, cast it wherever, right? More consistent. So, modding. With the release of the Twisted Twilight, we've introduced a host of changes which impact on the fantastic work of our modding community. As such, we want to give a big shout out to the following modders for the sterling service they've provided players over the years. Aww, Mixu! Yeah, I used a lot of your mods. Fenris Wolf, I recognise the name, I can't think of what mods he's done though. But, good. And a host of others for their work on Wood Elf units, heroes and mechanics. All those who worked on the Chaos Invasion tweaks, in particular Krinsos, and his Chaos Invasion choice mod. Very cool. Much respect to Smokin for the Abandoned Region mod, which has been a staple download for many players over the years. Yeah, that's always recommended to people. Always. And finally, Alith Anar to those who tweaked the Silverling Guard's headwear, including the Unknown Chronicler, Urg, and Taste of Capitalism. We're sorry we can get every name into what is already a lengthy set of patch notes. Yeah, it is. We're looking forward to seeing how the modding community tinkers with the new toys and the latest DLC and update. And then, now we're going to go through it all in Chinese for my Chinese audience. No, we're not. No, we're not. If I have a Chinese audience, presumably they can speak English. And I don't speak Chinese, so what you gonna do? Or Mandarin, I guess. You know, I don't even know what it's called. That's how rubbish I am. So, yeah, that is an upsetting number of patch notes, guys. This has been ridiculous. So that is the Twisted in the Twilight. You might go, where is all the patch notes for the units? Yeah, they're coming in a different document. They need a few more days. So, it might be out before release, it might not. They can't promise. So, I will probably be going over those when they're out. It's apparently over 40 pages. So yeah, it's a ludicrous amount of tweaks. This is probably the heftiest amount of stuff they've changed. The new content is, like, it looks really good. There's a bunch of new mechanics in the new DLCs, a bunch of free stuff which is really good. The Wood Elf rework is one of the most robust reworks they've ever done. It completely upends a bunch of mechanics, and it's actually probably one of my favourite campaigns now. It's gone from, like, the weakest campaign to straight up one of the best. Mechanically, narratively, thematically, all of the alleys, it does a great job. So the fact they've done so many little changes to make stats and things more uniform across the board, different effects, spell effects, just to make everything more uniform and intuitive across the board, it is so welcome. It's... I think, personally, it's a big sign that they're nearly done. I think they're nearly done with Warhammer 2. I'd be surprised if the next DLC they announce isn't going to be like the pre-order bonus for Warhammer 3. I have no insider knowledge on that. You know, I might get early access to stuff, but they don't tell us things in advance, right? They tell us when it's like, we've got a new thing for you to play with. And that's it, right? They don't say, in a few months, we'll give you this thing. They don't do that. So I don't know what's coming. But they did this with Warhammer 1. Right at the end of Warhammer 1, they did like a big pass on everything they'd done. And we're just like, brilliant, finished package, all right, finished product, boom. Everything is consistent and works. And then Warhammer 2 started, and they started muddying up everything again with, you know, different releases and changing their thought process for all of it. And now they're going through and making sure it's all consistent, which I think is a great sign that Warhammer 3 is getting real close, which I think everyone suspected at this point. You know, it's been a long time since Warhammer 2 came out, but, like, oh, I'm getting excited. And it's weird to think patch notes are what is really giving it away. So I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with this. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, then please do comment, like, and subscribe, and press all the buttons that you should press, that everyone keeps telling you to. You've been on YouTube before, I'm sure. You know the drill. Helps me out and feeds my cats. So I don't have any cats, but I hope to have cats one day that require feeding. So buy me cats. Thanks. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day, guys.